Guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jennifer. Please, if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe. So today we are going to learn how to cut corset, the two different methods of cutting corset. Trust me, it's very simple and easy. So let's go to work table. Now to the work table, I've placed my tape rule on a vertical side. So I'm going to get my vertical measurement. That's 10 inches for the bust point, 13 inches for the underbust, and 16 inches for the half length. So I'll go ahead to make them into a straight line. That's my sewing allowance. The half length, that's 16 inches. The underbust and the bust point. All right, so the next thing is to get my chest line. I'll go up by 2 inches from the bust point. So remember, my bust point is 10 inches. I go up by 2 inches, which is 8 inches. That's my chest line. All right, mark into a straight line. So the next step is to get my shoulder slope. I get my shoulder from the shoulder line, and my shoulder I'm using is 7.5. That's shoulder divided by 2, 7.5. Then I come down by 1 inch and marked it there. So from there I connect it to the shoulder line. That's basically for my shoulder slope. Right, so I get my armhole. The armhole measurement I'm going to use is 8.5 inches. So I'll mark it there. So also make sure that I have 7.5 the shoulder measurement there, so I'll create a straight line. That's 7.5. Then I marked it into a straight line from the 7.5 shoulder line to the 7.5 armhole there. Okay, then I connect it. That's my armhole measurement, and marked it there. So I'm going here to make sure that's my chest line, the bust point, the under bust, and the half length or waist measurement, then the sewing allowance. So the next step is to get my nipple to nipple measurement. That's nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mine is 8. Divided by 2 will give me 4, and I add half an inch. That's 4.5 inch. I'll go ahead and mark it straight from the bust point to the under bust. All right, down to the sewing allowance, 4.5 inch up to the chest line, and I marked it there. Right, then I connect it into a straight line. Connect it into a straight line. Then on the underbust, from the underbust, I'll go out by 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch on both sides. That's what I'll use to create my dart. 1.5 inch on both sides. I'll do the same at the waistline. Also get 1.5 inch on both sides. Then I connect it. Right, make it into a straight line. So now I'm going to get my bust measurement. I measure the difference between my bust point and the under bust. Mine is giving me 3, and I'm going to mark 3.5. That's I'm adding half an inch. I marked it right at the bust point line there. So I'll connect it to the under bust dart like so. Okay, with your curve ruler, mark this and connect and extend it to the armhole line. All right, so next I'm going to come in at the center piece, come in by half an inch from the bust point and to the chest line. This is to create a space at the bust line. Remember, the paper is folded into 2, so when I open it, it will be up to 1 inch. So I'm going to connect it. I'm going to connect the half inch to the under bust dart. All right, connect it, and then go up by 1 inch from the chest line. This is optional. That's if you want the cup to cover your bust. For if you don't want it, you can just leave it like that. So I'll extend that half inch to the chest line, and also go up by 1 inch from the chest line. Then I mark half inch on both sides to create a dart there. Right, so I'll connect the darts. First of all, connect the darts from the under bust to the bust point, and also connect the dart from the chest line to the bust point with my rule. Okay, ensure you place your rule very well to get the dart. So I'll connect it like so. And so from the chest line, remember I go up by 1 inch. So from there I'll connect to the other part of the bust point. So connect it. All right, you can see our bust is forming shape. It's already formed shape. So that's our dart. The shaded part is our dart, and that's the ones we are going to cut off. Okay, that's basically off our corset. You can see how lovely it is. So I'll go ahead to get my neckline. The neckline using is 3.5 inch width and 3.5 inch length. Okay, this optional, you can go deeper if you want. So then I'll connect it together, right? And that will basically form our yoke. Initially I don't want to cut this corset with yoke, but I decided to add the yoke in case if you want to add yoke to yours. So that's our corset with yoke. So I'll go ahead to get the horizontal measurement. First of all, to get the bust divided by 4, you marked it, then you add the dart allowance. Remember I take 1 inch from both sides. I add the 1 inch and mark it plus the sewing allowance. I'll do the same at the under bust divided by 4, that's 8. Then I'll mark 3 inches, that 1.5 inch on both sides. I'll mark it 3 inches plus sewing allowance. I'll mark it there. Also do the same at the waist and connect the line. All right, so that's basically all for our corset. Okay, so I'll go ahead and trim them off. First of all, cut off the sewing allowance, right? Then I cut off the side allowance. But before I cut it off, I'm going to draft my armhole. I forgot it, so let me quickly draft it here. So from the midpoint, you're going to connect your curve rule, right? So with my curve rule, I'll start from the midpoint of the armhole and connect it down to where the bust stop. Okay, so I'll draft cut it. Now I've cut that out. All right, then I'm going to label it. This number 1 and number 2. I'm going to create my arrow to know how I'm going to place it when I'm placing it on my fabric. It's very, very important. Okay, right now we're going to get the second method. So I've already drafted my vertical lines on the second method. That's my chest line, the bust point, the under bust, the waist measurement, and the sewing allowance. Okay, so you can see 16 inches for my waistline, 13 inches for under bust, 10 inches for 10 bust, and 8 inches for chest line, just like I did the previous one. So I'll go ahead to get my bust point, which is 4.5 inches. I'll mark it straight from the chest line to the sewing allowance, 4.5 inches on each side. Then I'm going to make it into a straight line, connect it to a straight line. That's my bust point line. Okay, then I'll get 1/2 inch, sorry, 1.5 inch on both sides, starting from the under bust, 1.5. Then I'll connect it to the waistline, make it into a straight line, then connect to the waistline down to the sewing allowance. All right, so I'll determine my bust measurement. I'll measure the difference between the under bust and bust point. Mine is giving me 3. I'm going to mark 3.5. That's I'm adding 1/2 inch to it. So I mark 3.5 there. Then I come in by 1/2 inch on this side, Remember the paper is folded into two, so when I open it, it will be up to 1 inch. So I'll connect it to the under bust dart. Right, from that half an inch, I connect to the under bust dart. All right, and also connect this 3.5 inch to the under bust dart. Hope you understand this. Okay, then I extend it to the armhole and also extend this to the half an inch at the chest line. Okay, then I'm going to extend my line. Okay, this is basically optional. I can extend it up to 1 inch. That's if you want it to cover your bust, like I explained previously. Okay, so now I'm going to mark the dart. Okay, let me connect the under bust dart to the bust point. From the under bust to the bust point, I connect the darts with the curve rule, right, and also connect the other side to the bust point. All right, okay, make it curve, then curve it well. So as you can see, our cup is forming gradually. So now I'll go up by 1 inch. Initially I wanted to stop there, but let me go up by 1 inch to create a dart there. Remember, I said this is totally optional. You do this when you want the cup to cover your bust. Okay, so I'll connect it. Remember the previous one we did, we have a dart at the chest line, but this one is not going to have that at the chest line. So rather the dart will be on the side like this. So I'll come out by ½ inch from there, just half or just some inch from there, not up to ½ inch, in order to make it the bust point not to be too sharp. Okay, so I'll go out by ½ inch on both sides. Go out by ½ inch on both sides, just ½ inch. Okay, just to create that dart at the side. All right, that's the difference between the two cup sets. Okay, I'm going ahead to connect it to the bust point. Ensure you place that rule very well to get the dart. All right, okay, so I also connect the other side to the bust point. So I connect it. So I'll equally do the same at the other side. As you can see the difference between the two corsets. All right, so I'll just come out by ½ inch on both sides. All right, on both sides. Okay, and also connect to the line. Ensure you place your rule well to get the dart. All right, and also connect to the next side, the other side. I'll connect it. All right, okay, can you see that's the difference between the two cup? All right, that's our side dart. Okay, just connect to the bust point. Just come a little far from bust point to connect the dart. Okay, now that's all for it. I'm going to get my horizontal measurement, starting from the bust point. My bust divided by 4 plus sewing inches or sewing allowance. I marked it there. So you can see there's no dart there, so I'm going to mark bust divided by 4 plus sewing allowance. At the under bust divided by 4 plus the dart. Okay, I marked it. Then I do the same thing at the waist. Remember, I take 1.5 inch on both sides for the dart. I'm going to add it, my waist divided by 4 plus 3 inches sewing allowance. Dart allowance, I'm adding it there, plus sewing allowance, I add it there. All right, then I connect the lines. Okay. You see the line may look somehow, but when you cut it and join together, it will rhyme. All right, So that's it for our second method of corset. So I'm going ahead to create my armhole, my neckline. All right, the neckline I'm going to use is 3.5. It's optional. 3.5 width and 3.5 length. Okay, depending the kind of armhole, you can choose any style of your armhole curve, be C curve or V curve or sweetheart neck, anyone you want, you put. So all right, so that I've created my yoke. This is our yoke. Okay, so that's all for our basic corset. The second method, go ahead to cut it off. So I'll go ahead to label it. Can you see this one have 3 parts and the previous one have 2 parts? I trim off the side allowance. Can you see it? I think you can spot the difference between the two corsets. All right, and you see how lovely. That's our first one. You can see it. We have 2 parts here. All right, see how lovely it is. It can actually come out fine when you place it on your fabric. All right, can you see the second one? It has 3 parts. Okay, I've joined it with tape rule. Now we are going to draft the back side. I've placed my rule vertically. The vertical line I hit here is the chest line, the waist, and the sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead and make it into a straight line. Remember, I fold my paper into 2. Okay, so all this I'm dividing by 4. Now this my chest line. I'll mark 1 inch on all the sides for zip allowance and make it into a straight line. All right, that's my zipper allowance. I use 1 inch for it. Okay, go ahead and write it. Now I'm going to fold it inward. This is for beginners, in order not to start your measurement from there. Okay, I'm folding it inward. All right, so that every other measurement I'm going to take, especially the horizontal measurement, I'm not going to add the zip allowance. All right, so now I'm going ahead to label it. That's my chest line, the half length, and the sewing allowance, and my shoulder line. That's the vertical lines I need here. So I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder line. I'm going to by 7.5 inches for the shoulder. Then I come down by 1 inch and then connect it to the shoulder line. All right, so I now mark my armhole. I'm using 8.5 inches for the armhole. I marked it there. Then I measure my 7.5 shoulder line from there to mark it at the armhole in order to achieve a straight line. All right, then I connect it. Right, so that's my armhole line. Yeah. Then from the midpoint, I'll connect and get my armhole curve. So that's my armhole curve. Okay, so now I'm going to create my neckline. I mark 3.5 inch width and 3.5 inch length, and I connect it. As you can see, I'm doing it after the zipper allowance. I'm not adding it. And remember, this 3.5 inch is what I use the front piece. Okay, so now I mark my nipple to nipple measurement 4.5 inch. I mark it there and also mark it at the chest line. Then I connect it and make it into a straight line. All right, make it into a straight line. Then from the waistline, I go up by 1/2 inch on both sides. 1/2 inch on both sides. Then I connect it to the chest line. Okay, I connect the other side, the chest line. Then I measure my horizontal measurement, my waist divided by 4 plus the 1 inch dart and sewing allowance, and also do the same, bust divided by 4 plus sewing allowance. Okay, then I connect the line. Alright, having connect the dot, and I open my zipper allowance, as you can see. So then you can manipulate your neckline. I want a V neckline, so I'm extending it to the zipper side. All right, you can actually leave yours like that, depending. All right, so that's all for our back piece. I'll go ahead to cut it off, and this is our yoke there, then the yoke and the back side. So that's it for our back side. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video useful, give me a thumbs up and kindly subscribe. See you in my next video. Thank you.